Welcome back in, everyone. This is Jordan with Ravens Flash Report, and today we're going to be discussing the Ravens draft picks in rounds 4 through 7 and what sort of value and depth pieces the Ravens got with these picks. Through the first 3 rounds, the Ravens were able to get a cornerback, an offensive tackle, and an edge rusher, all three of which should see significant time on the field in their first year. But what about the 6 picks the Ravens made during day 3? Will any of these guys be diamonds in the rough? Maybe potential starters? Or are most of them simply depth pieces or even practice squad players? We're going to go round by round, taking a look at each pick and each player to try and figure out more about them and what sort of impact and role they might have on the 2024 Ravens. As always, guys, like if you enjoy, subscribe if you're new, comment your favorite day 3 pick down below, and let's get to it. In the 4th round at pick 113, the Ravens selected Devontae Walker, a wide receiver out of University of North Carolina. Listed between 6'2" and 6'3" and just under 200 pounds, Walker is mainly known as a speedy deep threat who can take the top off of pretty much any defense, making single coverage difficult for all but the fastest cornerbacks. One of the single most glaring weaknesses in the Ravens' offense last year in 2023 was their inability to push the ball downfield consistently. The odd deep shot to Bateman, Flowers, or OBJ, it's not nearly enough to make defenses play them honestly. The fact of the matter is that Walker is the exact missing puzzle piece to this Ravens offense. Breaking out at Kent State in 2022, with over 900 yards on 58 receptions and 11 touchdowns, Walker showed how dangerous he can be. And despite only playing in 8 games due to a weird NCAA rule change, in 2023 at a UNC, Walker had nearly 700 yards and 7 touchdowns off of only 41 receptions, giving him an average of 17 yards per reception. As a rookie, I don't think Walker's going to see more than maybe 40 targets, but he should definitely get his shots, and if he makes the most of them early on in the season, he could actually see closer to 50 or 60 targets over the season. This is by far my favorite pick of the draft because not only does Walker's play pair perfectly with Bateman and Zay, he won't have to deal with all the pressure of being the number 1 or even number 2 guy right out of the gate, but will immediately be able to provide value to the team. Still in the 4th round at pick 130, the Ravens take another corner and draft TJ Tampa out of Iowa State. At 6'2" and 190 pounds, Tampa is a converted wide receiver and former basketball player who, although still learning the position, has shown great potential as a man-press corner in addition to being a willing and able hitter against the run. As a consensus top 60 pick, the Ravens getting Tampa at 130 is amazing value. I think that value alone made him impossible to pass up on, regardless of taking Wiggins at 30. It's actually very interesting to me that both of the Ravens' picks in this 4th round have a significant similarity in that both are in a great position to learn and develop behind other great players in their position groups, while also not being needed to perform as a major contributor right out of the gate, as so often is for the Ravens. Now, I'm not saying that Tampa is going to become Marlon Humphrey or Jimmy Smith, but Brandon Stevens' level of play is a reasonable expectation after a year or two. Obviously, the Ravens took Stevens with the hope that his athleticism and versatility would translate, and it very much did. With a comparable shift from one position to another like Stevens, I can say with reasonable confidence that I believe Tampa should be able to achieve a similar type of growth. And maybe together with Wiggins, we already have our next great pairing of young stud corners for the future. In round 5 at pick 165, the Ravens took running back Rasheen Ali from Marshall. I didn't know much about Ali before we drafted him, beyond seeing his name pop up in some of my mock drafts, but after looking at his production and skill set, I understand the pick. At 5'11" and 206 pounds, Ali is a great runner with good vision and decent receiving capabilities. He took a leave of absence in 2022, playing in only 3 games, but through his 2 full seasons of 2021 and 2023, Rasheen put up over 2,500 yards on 462 attempts, averaging 5.5 yards per carry, while scoring 38 touchdowns. Through the air, he added 547 yards and 2 touchdowns off of 73 receptions during those same 2 seasons. He also provided above-average pass blocking, which you know John Harbaugh loves. But what I'm sure John does not love, however, is that Ali has a propensity for putting the ball on the turf. I would expect that there will be measures in place to practice ball security at every single possible opportunity, because as we all know, John's doghouse always has a vacancy for players that are loose with the ball in their hands. Ali suffered a ruptured bicep tendon at the Senior Bowl and was unable to participate in the Combine. He is expected, however, to be ready to go towards the middle or end of summer, and I think a backfield of Derrick Henry, Justice Hill, and Rasheen Ali will provide great balance for this offense. Not to mention, of course, the return of Keaton Mitchell at some point, which should provide a shot in the arm as well, assuming his rehab goes well and he makes a full recovery. The Ravens didn't pick again until the 6th round at pick number 218, where they took Devin Leary, quarterback out of Kentucky. At 6'1" and 215 pounds, he's a bit undersized, and his skill set is at odds with the Ravens with what they seem to be set up for. I, along with many other Ravens fans, were perplexed by this pick, and while I agree with Sarah Ellison from the Vault podcast on YouTube that the Ravens were in need of a quarterback to push for the backup position, Leary isn't who I would have thought to get. It's my understanding that T. Martin, our quarterback coach, was put in charge of looking for the backup quarterback he wanted in this draft, and he went with Leary, so we have no choice but to trust the expert here. Leary only started at Kentucky for 1 year, putting up modest numbers, but in general a decent year. While his 25 touchdowns and 134.3 passer rating are great, his 56.3 completion percentage and his 12 interceptions are a bit worrisome. His best year by far, coming in 2021, is probably the hope that Martin might be hanging his hat on with Leary. Nearly 3,500 yards and 35 touchdowns with only 5 interceptions and his highest completion percentage at 65.7, not to mention a passer rating of 157. I have warmed up to the Leary pick in the days following the draft, and while I don't quite understand the appeal due to the stylistic difference he has with our current offense and playbook, as I said, we just simply have to trust T. Martin here and hope that Lamar stays healthy. Ravens pick at number 228 in the 7th round was Nick Samek, a center out of Michigan State. The pick here makes sense, with no current backup center behind Linderbaum after the departure of Sam Mustipher, and Nick's style of play is a reflection of how the Ravens would play if Linderbaum was out, running the ball more. At 6'4" and 307 pounds, Samek is a decent-sized center with average arm length and average speed. There are several reasons, though, that I say that the Ravens would go with the run with Samek in the game. The first is that he's a better run blocker than pass blocker, so it would give him an advantage if he came in cold off the bench. Second, as a rookie with no starting experience in the league, you would want your offensive line to be able to go on the offensive more by pushing forward instead of sitting back in pass protection. And third, I really don't think the Ravens want Lamar Jackson to be protected up the middle in a passing situation too often with a backup rookie center. I'm not taking shots at Nick, just saying what it appears the Ravens are thinking. Samek does have a lot of experience playing center with 50 games and 2,427 snaps under his belt in Michigan State in the Big Ten Conference. Hopefully, like Leary, this is simply a precaution, and he can learn and develop under Linderbaum and coach Joe D. The last pick the Ravens made in the 2024 draft was one that I actually really like for a few reasons. In the 7th round, with pick number 250, the Ravens selected Sanusi Kane, safety out of Purdue. At 6 foot, 215 pounds, he is a true strong safety who plays best at the line of scrimmage, getting his hands dirty against the run. With 2 years of starting experience and over 160 tackles, he's averaging over 50 solo tackles a year, as well as having 10 passes defended, 3 forced fumbles, one of which he recovered, several tackles for loss, and a couple of sacks. So, why do I like him so much? Well, first off, he plays like a Raven. Physical, competitive, and not afraid to do the grunt work that comes with defensive play. His coach also had high praise for him, saying he wishes he had more players like Sanusi Kane, and that he's a warrior on the field who loves football. That's the kind of endorsement I want to hear about a safety selected by the Ravens in the 7th round. I don't see much field time for Kane outside of special teams where he may make a name for himself as a tackler, but the Ravens have shown a great eye for defensive talent in the later rounds of the draft over the years. I'm excited to see if that trend continues with Kane. Well, there you go, guys. The 6 players the Ravens drafted in rounds 4 through 7 of this year's draft. Personally, I feel like this draft is going to be a little difficult to evaluate through the first year or two, as many of the players taken are either starting out as backups or depth pieces, but then that's what happens when you have so many good players as starters in front of them. The hope, of course, is that they will be able to grow and develop over the next year or two and be able to carve out a role on the team as either a starter or depth piece that can step up when their number is called. Anyway, as I said in the beginning of the video, like this if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, comment who your favorite pick is from day 3 down below, and as always, stay safe out there and go Ravens.